Nityananda had nothing. He wanted nothing. In fact, he only wore a longoti, which is a kind of thong, because his disciples asked him to wear it. Otherwise, it never entered into his mind to put on any clothes. He was, the term is Digambra. He was sky-clad. Oh, he didn't touch money. He asked nothing from anyone. He would give some teaching or say something sometimes, but he never pursued any disciples, didn't have many, and, only interacted with people who were willing and able to undertake some very serious sadhana. Otherwise, he would receive many people, but he would only very briefly. Nityananda, when he came to Ganeshpuri, stayed in that ruined temple, and Ganeshpuri was loaded with snakes and mosquitoes and cholera and malaria and dengue fever and so many things that we have no experience of here in the United States. And also, at the time when he moved here, the only people who lived in that area were Kolis and Warlis. Now, the Koli people and the Warli people are called Adivasis. These are tribal people who have lived in India for tens of thousands of years, and whose culture is very similar to the culture of many very ancient peoples, like the Dayak people in Borneo, or the Aboriginal people of New Guinea. And a feature of the Koli and Warli culture is that they kill each other and eat each other. And it's a part of their very primitive religion to engage in human sacrifice and cannibalism. And so I'm sure when Nityananda came there, probably somebody was licking their lips and thinking, but within a very short period of time, Nityananda had completely transformed both of those communities. They all became devotees of his and completely changed their program. And, there was no more any kind of violence, at all around anywhere that Nityananda held sway. And in fact, the only people that he would ever have a normal conversation with were those people. He never had a normal conversation like, oh, how you doing today? Terrible weather here. Can you believe those mosquitoes? They're as big as birds. He would talk like that with Koli and Warli people, the community, the head men of those villages, but nobody else. Nityananda was infused with divine creative energy. He was a profoundly awakened human being who had no desire and who experienced that his own most basic nature was complete and perfect in every way and needed nothing. He would say, the self has no problem. The self, our truest inner nature has no problem. It is complete and perfect and totally well as it is. And the pathway to the realization of that innate perfection and that innate abundance is the awakening of the Kundalini energy and the cultivation of that Kundalini energy moving within the energetic mechanism. Oh, I've talked a lot about this already, and maybe you've heard me, maybe you haven't. it's a broader conversation to have, but not tonight. Nityananda stayed in Ganeshpuri. It completely became transformed. There was a road, in his lifetime, there was a road that was put in there. There was regular bus service that was established. There were buildings that were built there around him, and even including an air-conditioned room for Nityananda that had a generator one of his disciples built for him. And Nityananda stayed there one night, and then he left. He wouldn't go back in there. He slept on a concrete slab under a stairway, basically in a stairwell. That's where he slept every night. During the daytime, he had two venues that he would meet people. One was kind of early on, he met them outside, even in the rain. Later on, a building was built, and it had a room, maybe a third the size of this room, where people used to gather, and he would sit there quietly and just gaze at people. And Chakrapani described Nityananda's company when he was here last year. Chakrapani described Nityananda's company, if you'll remember, as thrilling. To be in his company was a blissful experience. And Chakrapani remembers those 9 years, and especially his personal direct contact with Nityananda, as the most extraordinarily blissful years of his life, which profoundly changed him. This is an experience that, as I traveled through India for 5 years, gathering material for the books, the Divine Presence, and the Nitya Sutras and the Sky of the Heart, which I did about Nityananda. This is a story that was repeated endlessly. That Nityananda took nothing from anyone, gave, sort of nothing to anyone except the awakening and the experience of the awakening and wellness that is innately everyone's, and that experience for each person was profoundly beautiful. Even kind of materialistic and stupid people used to come to meet Nityananda. There's a story about a gambler. Actually, the story is that one guy I met, a Shetty, whose family had been instructed by Nityananda when they were dead broke to buy a truck. Nityananda just said to the father, buy a truck. So somehow, the father doesn't know how this is going to happen, but Nityananda's told him, so he starts looking for a truck. Somebody gives him a truck and lets him pay for it by driving it and hauling stuff. And so the Shetty family had become this, by the time I met the son, the Shetty family had like 500 trucks. And the son told me that, once he wanted to go to see Nityananda, but his parents weren't available to take him, and they didn't want him to go alone because he was young. So he got one of his father's employees, who was a gambler, to go with him. And Nityananda comes out of his room, and the boy and the gambler comes out of the building, and the boy and the gambler are standing there, and the boy folds his hands and starts to pray. And so the gambler folds his hands and starts to pray, and he's saying to himself, "Please, Baba, give me a number." And Nityananda looks at him, and Nityananda he could talk. I don't know if you've ever heard me at my worst, but Nityananda could talk like a truck driver. He could talk trash. He could sling his 4-letter words in Marathi and Hindi better than anybody. And he started, cursing this guy out. You stupid, low-life son of a bitch, asshole, what do you think you're doing here? Who do you think you are? Anyway, he's carrying on, and he picks up a coconut and hauls back and throws it at the guy and hits him really hard in the thigh. And the coconut somehow rolls right back to Nityananda, who picks it up and does it again. And the guy had 2 big bruises on his thigh. And he went back to town and started betting the number 2, and he won, like 10,000 rupees. And so he became a devotee of Nityananda. Nityananda, in his own way, took care of all of the needs, even the physical needs of the people who came around him. He was, this extraordinary spiritual cornucopia outpouring of miracles for people who hadn't even the education or the imagination to dream of any, big change in their life. And yet, in his company, profound transformations took place. At the end of his life, after Ganeshpuri being completely transformed, and by then, thousands of people coming to see him every day, he used to sit in a chair. And in India, in Nityananda's tradition, there are 5 places which the energy, the spiritual power of a saint emits from their body. Their eyes, their mouth, their hands, their feet, and also their mind. So it's very important, both as a show of respect and as a request for a blessing, that you touch the feet of such a person. And so everybody wanted to touch Nityananda's feet. But for him, that's a big pain in the ass, and he doesn't exactly want to be bothered. But what he did was, he sat in this chair at the end of a long, narrow hallway that forced people to stand in a line. I don't know how many of you have been in India, but a line in India for a door is horizontal. They never line up like this. They always line up like this, and and the line is triangular, and it's all like a crunch. Anyway, Nityananda had everything designed nicely, so he was covered, and there was innate organization to the thing. And then he had this chair made for himself, which was a reclining chair made from wood that had these 2 unnatural extensions, sort of like this chair, with 2 extensions that came out like this. And so he hung his feet way up in the air. And everybody who came by there could touch his feet without even really bending over. And that way, he was actually being nice and respectful of the desire of the people to touch his feet, and trying to make it as easy as possible tried to make that experience of a blessing available in the simplest, nicest way it could happen. Nityananda was seeing thousands of people a day like that, and the one thing that he is remembered for saying to those people was, as they came by, was bhavana rakho. Bhavana is a feeling, and rakho is to keep or to hold, actually to place. And what he meant by that was to hold the feeling of devotion and gratitude in your heart. Take the feeling of devotion and gratitude and place it in your heart and keep it there.